our guest is Vanessa Lapointe, and she has been supporting families and children for over 15 years with her work as a registered psychologist and founder of the Wishing Star Developmental Clinic. So we are going to talk to Dr. Lapointe about her book called Discipline Without Damage, How to Get Your Kids to Behave Without Messing Them Up. Welcome to the show, Dr. Lapointe.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you touch on one of the things I know for me at least, and I'm sure for many parents, is one of the huge trigger points for, I guess, worry and guilt and anxiety is, are we messing them up when we discipline them? So give us a little bit about your book and what it's about.
Well, I'll tell you, the reason that I wrote the book is that working as a psychologist supporting children and their parents, one of the most frequent issues that we talk about in my office is discipline. And indeed, it's the most frequently requested topic that I have in terms of workshops that I present. And so the challenge with discipline is that we have become very focused on good behavior for our children and feel much judgment from the world around us when our children are not, quote, well behaved. And in being so focused on that, we've sort of lost sight of the reality that is child development and how many of the behaviors that our children present with don't need to have this sort of shaming value of being bad attached to them, but rather they're a normal part of development. And when we really embrace child development and we really understand what it is that children need to grow up in the best possible way, we see that we cannot put our connection with them, our relationship with them, on the line simply in the name of good behavior. And unfortunately, a lot of our more popular approaches to discipline do exactly that.
Right. So just dig a little deeper in that. So basically, the developmental phases of children is such that they will misbehave at points, and they will need positive discipline. Are you saying not positive discipline, or yes, positive discipline?
Well, yes, children will misbehave at points due to the reality that their brains are simply not mature enough to allow them to, quote, make good decisions every moment of every day. They're going to become dysregulated. They're going to melt down. They're going to lash out. They're going to steal a toy from someone when they should have shared. They'll do all of those things because their brains are immature. At the core of positive and healthy child development is this need for children to have a emotional connection with a caring big person or parent who's going to make sure that they come alongside the child, particularly when the child is undone, and settle and regulate that child. The regulation happens via that parent-child connection. And so if we are playing that connection against our children in order to ensure they're well behaved, which we do when we time them out or take things away from them, we're actually walking ourselves into a troublesome sort of spot in terms of whether or not we might be interfering with healthy development for our kids.
Okay. So sounds like a pretty key concept in the book. What other key concepts do you cover without giving the book away? Obviously, you want our listeners to buy it. But so what do we do? What's the alternative if, like you said, so just to make the connection with the child as and work them through the behavior?
Right. And so in the book, I actually talk about two levels of discipline. First is what we can do in the moment. So if we're going to be really emotionally connected and relationally focused for our children in the moment of misbehavior, what are some things that you can do that actually embody that kind of approach and still have your child feel like you're in charge and you're taking care of this? And I go through actually 9 key stepping stones to managing the moment and helping parents understand what that looks and sees and feels like. The second layer I talk about is what we can do all around the moment. So how are we working to be in charge of our children's development? How are we working to be in charge of their world and setting up that world optimally for their best development? And if we can come at discipline through those 2 layers, both knowing how to respond in the moment in a connection-focused way and also knowing how to set the world up around them, then we can wander our way through discipline without harming our children.
Okay, very interesting. And so the second part where you were saying that's the proactive part. You set it up so that you're disciplining, as you said, so you're not messing them up. But the first part is the hardest part to me. I know I had 2 children in 2 years, and my oldest was and they're different children. That was the difficulty for me, was just disciplining them so differently.
Sure.
But I remember that's so interesting that you definitely have key points and tips for parents in the book, because to me, I would like to have known, wait, I had to stop, and I had one in a stroller and one in a shopping cart, and one was a toddler trying to run down the grocery store aisle. And you know what I mean? It was just like, what do I do in that moment? In the moment was the biggest thing to me, where I felt that's where I was going to lose it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really interesting, once I get talking with people about really being connection-focused and relationship-focused and how we're disciplining our children, a lot of people become worried about what does it look like, and so I've been certain in the book to really breathe some life into what that would look like. But the second thing people become worried about is that this is going to be really airy-fairy, like group hug parenting approach.
Right.
And what I really want for people to know and to understand is that just because you are going to be kind to your children does not mean that you are going to parent in a way with no boundaries, no expectations, and no containment for them. You absolutely must be in charge, and you must be firm on the things that matter, but you must do all of that with kindness at the center of it.
Right. Oh, that's excellent. Very good advice. We only have about a minute left. So briefly talk about, you had said something about the Discipline Vortex. Can you briefly tell us? It's about 30 seconds.
The discipline vortex happens when parents respond to misbehavior with disconnection-focused responses like timeouts, consequences, removal of privileges, even reward charts. All of those things at the core break the relational connection with the child, propelling them into a further state of dysregulation. When they're in that state of dysregulation, they're much more likely to, quote, misbehave again. And so round and round we go with misbehavior responded to with disconnection.
I gotcha. Great. All right. So your website is Dr. Vanessa Lapointe, and that's LAPOINTE.com. And tell our listeners where we can find your book.
The book is available on Amazon.com and everywhere that books are sold.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I think we just scratched the surface. So we definitely need to take a look at your book. Thank you so much. And congratulations on the publication and the launch of the book. And that was Dr. Vanessa Lapointe.